right, good evening and welcome everyone to RDDC's Welcome Navigating the Health and Holidays webinar tonight. So we're going to have a great community discussion that is a lot centered around connecting with your community and how to do that effectively as a person living with a rare condition, chronic illness, or other traumas or challenges. So this is kind of a diverse crowd. We're looking forward to connecting with everyone. And we have some phenomenal patient advocates joining us tonight that are going to be a part of this conversation and serve as our lived experts to provide their insight based on their personal journey. So we're super excited to have each and every individual here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Jocelyn Cooper. I am the program manager for RDDC, and I'll be serving as the moderator for tonight. I use she, her pronouns. I am excited to connect with you and just provide a quick community agreement as we move forward with our presentation. So please know that this session is being recorded and will very likely be housed on our YouTube page and other educational platforms at a later date. Please stay on mute unless you're speaking during tonight's program. When we start engaging and things of that nature, please be sure to raise your hand or drop your questions in the chat, and we'll make every effort to make sure that we address them throughout the presentation. Use the chat to share any questions or comments regarding everything. We encourage you to engage in a way that feels comfortable to you. So if that's no cam, that's totally okay. If that's just engaging in the chat and you don't wish to unmute and speak audibly, that's okay as well. Just be mindful and respectful as we hold this space together. We know that we are all individuals, and we want to honor the lived experiences and unique experiences that everyone has gone through and is going through. So know that you may have a difference of opinion and things of that nature. That's totally okay. This is a no judgment zone, and we're excited to have you here with us. All right. So we said use the chat to be engaged and get started with the comments. So we're going to go ahead and practice that right now. All right. Please tell us what your favorite fall or winter beverage is. Drop it in the chat just to practice utilizing that. I'm sure I'm going to see some pumpkin spices any moment now. Any moment now. All right. And while you all are doing that, I'll give you some background on our wonderful organization. So RDDC, or the Rare Disease Diversity Coalition, is a signature program of the Black Women's Health Imperative. We are a 43-year-old organization that was founded to empower and uplift the voices of Black women as it relates to public health and health needs. So we focus on health equity. And as a signature program that focuses on the rare disease space, RDDC does it through a different lens. So we focus on individuals that identify as the rare within rare. And so for us, that means individuals that are Black and African American, Latinx, Hispanic, and Indigenous, LGBTQIA+, or individuals that fit into other rare categories or diverse categories. That includes people living with disabilities, rural communities, because that certainly is a diverse and equitable need, as well as individuals that might identify as uninsured or underinsured. So that's something to think about as well. So we focus on making sure that we're advancing equity with evidence-based solutions, and that's what RDDC Center is. We do this through the help and networking of a number of gifted patients, caregivers, industry partners, and patient advocacy groups. So we're super excited to have you here with us tonight as we continue this conversation and uplift this conversation for the first time about navigating health in the holidays and what that looks like for individuals in the rare community, but may also be living with an intersecting chronic illness or things of that nature. All right. I see some great drinks in the chat. Hot chocolate with marshmallows, peppermint hot mocha. This looks like my tribe. Peppermint flavor, peppermint tea, pumpkin juice. So super excited to have each and every one of you here. And thank you so much for sharing your favorite fall or winter beverage. If you're like me, you may drink some of these drinks year round, no matter what the season is. It'll be April and I'll be ordering a peppermint mocha. All right. So I want to take a quick moment as we move forward with our program to introduce our panelists and experts on tonight. So we have with us Amber, who is an RDDC coalition member and a patient and advocate and MSOSD warrior. And so we're super excited to have her with us tonight to share her insights and lived experience. And we also have Madison, who is also a RDDC coalition member, a patient and advocate, and a stiff person syndrome warrior. So we're super excited to have these two individuals to offer their insights tonight. We may also get to hear, whether in the chat or by unmuting, from some of our other patient caregiver advisory board members as well. Super excited. Thank you all so much for being here. All right. So one more time, let's practice this. What's one word that describes how the holiday makes you feel? So please just feel free to drop that in the chat. What's one word that helps you get insight on how the holiday feels? And we certainly expect to see a mix of things. All right. Awesome. I see reflective, happy. Some people are saying anxious, tired, joyful. Some say sad. All of these are absolutely valid. And that's why we're having this conversation tonight, because it's so important to have some balance in uplifting what this really looks like for a lot of different people, no matter where they are. Despite whatever your diagnosis may be, this can be a challenging season for everyone. So we want to honor that. I do want to highlight that one of the key things that we're going to do throughout this conversation is to highlight some things and have our experts comment or speak on it. But there are also a few vignettes or scenarios that we'll act out, and then we'll just get responses and ideas of how we can prepare our own kind of like script, stock language, or make a safety plan for ourselves as we prepare to navigate not even just the holidays, but any future family gatherings or events or activities that we have to participate in. Okay. All right. So the first thing that we want to talk about is the fact that your well-being is priority. I love that I see in the chat that the word that comes up for some regarding the holidays is busy, and that might also be contributing to why some individuals said they were tired. You know, stressors during the holidays are big. You have comparison, family pressures, that expectation to be perfect and have this holiday perfection. There's the concept of being super jolly during this time, right? You know, we may often watch a movie or encounter someone in public, and people will say, "Oh, be nice. It's Christmas." Right? Everybody's heard that at some point in their life. When the goal truly should be for us to be kind and compassionate always. It should not be attached to a holiday. And so we want to emphasize that tonight as we help individuals identify a few coping tools, individuals to set realistic expectations as they navigate this season, learning how to practice self-compassion, and then managing that whole concept of like the holiday FOMO, the fear of missing out. I don't want to miss anything. I want to be everywhere and see and do all the things. It sounds good, but whether you're living rare or not, it's something that absolutely needs to be managed, and we all can help each other through some tips and best practices work through. All righty. So those expectations can sometimes lead to seasonal depression, which is already something associated with the change in seasons, but the holiday kind of compounds that, and studies show that. So please know that you are not alone and that there are other loved ones that will likely be feeling similarly, right? Especially those that love and support and connect with you if you're living rare or with a chronic illness. But the concept of life is happening for everyone is so real, and burnout is real. So that's always something to be mindful of as you're interacting with or navigating with individuals. As I stated previously, that last bullet talks about being considerate and mindful of what others may be navigating year round. It's not about, some tree or, a menorah. It's all about making sure that we're kind and compassionate to ourselves and to others year round. So we want to provide extra grace for ourselves and others as we navigate this. So now we have our first question that we want to offer to our lovely panelists to get their great insight on everything. Please share with us, like, what's one thing that you do to protect your peace during this season? And I'll start with Amber.
Hi, thank you. And hi, everybody. Um, Again, my name is Amber Lackey, and I am a person living with rare disease. First, let me say thank you to the Rare Disease Diversity Coalition, to the Black Women's Health Imperative, for everything they do for underserved populations with rare diseases and for putting this webinar together. Thank you, Jocelyn, for your relentless work, your encouragement. Thank you to Jennifer Waldrop, Executive Director of the RDDC, and to our very own Patient and Caregiver Advisory Board for being a part of this conversation. So everybody in this country knows about holidays, okay? It's good food, it's singing, dancing, companionship, getting presents. And the way our economy is set up, this is really the only time of the year when the whole family gets time off and actually finds time to be together. And giving gifts and a huge meal made it an expression of heartfelt love can be so meaningful. For me, though, the holiday season always feels like a test because I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and because of my personal beliefs, I don't celebrate holidays. Um, it can be hard to stand out and be different. I mean, I love me some yams. I love me some macaroni and cheese. I love me some butter beans, peach cobbler. My father was a chef cook. Okay, so this is my favorite time of year. But I was in a split household. So I remember sometimes there would be, it was just different. I'm familiar with both sides, the celebration and abstaining from them. And I remember sometimes my dad wouldn't have the money to cook all the dishes we were used to having as a kid. And I remember he used to replace the good cheese with the cheap kind of mac and cheese to put in the mac and cheese. And I thought we wouldn't notice. And I was like, I know you lying. But, that's how things became. Things were just so expensive. And the expectation outweighed the reality that times were getting harder and harder. And when I told my dad I could no longer come to his house for Thanksgiving because of my beliefs, it broke his heart. But he respected my beliefs, and it was hard to disappoint him sometimes. I would still go because I didn't want to hurt his feelings. Then my father died. My aunts and uncles all died. It was so hard because the emptiness I felt. In fact, you've heard the term seasonal depression. It's extremely common. I suffer from seasonal depression every year because I miss my family and I feel like an outcast. On top of those things, this is the time of year where I get sick most often because the days are shorter and the days are colder. For someone like me with numerous health conditions, depression, and anxiety, especially pulmonary lung issues, I can't sit outside and enjoy the natural healing benefits from sunshine and nature like I do in the warmer months. I'm immunosuppressed, which means my immune system is compromised. I was recently diagnosed with a disease that affects my immune system and my blood. So that means my immune system is currently operating at less than 20%. A simple cold could take me out at this point. And I wouldn't dare being in a closed space with a bunch of people. I've been there, done that, and been hospitalized. So that's kind of like my story where I like to start with things.
Thank you so much, Amber. Madison, want to check in with you. Feel free to introduce yourself and then let us know, hey, what's one thing that you do to protect your peace or to just navigate this season well?
Hi, everyone. First, thank you to the RDDC. My name is Madison Bowe. I am a stiff person syndrome patient and advocate, and rare disease patient advocate. One thing that I do to protect my peace during the season honestly has to be that I always make sure to tell people that I'm upset, tell people that I'm sad, tell people that I trust that I'm not okay because of the circumstances of my situation with my family being so far away and different things that you'll hear later on. But because of my background, I really do have to say I'm sad or I'm upset to those people that I trust, because the emotions that I feel can have direct impact on my muscles, and therefore I could be in the hospital for 10 days or 7 days, and I don't want to do that. So I'd rather tell somebody how I feel than hold it in.
Thank you so much for sharing that, both Madison and Amber. These are really important conversations to have because we do live in a society, in a world where, despite a lot of the chaos that goes on from time to time, most individuals are trying to um, operate in a space of nice, right? We're trying to not upset others. We want to belong. We want to connect to community, and we don't want to upset other individuals. So it causes us to kind of shift how we operate in different spaces. And so it's a challenge sometimes just to how do you navigate telling someone how you really feel? What does it look like? What does drafting or connecting that language to the person that I love or like or am connected to so that I don't upset them so that they can be understanding. And so that's certainly what we're going to talk about as we explore some of these scenarios a little bit later. Amber started us off with a great insight into some of those food, diet, and gathering concerns. This is something that can be a real serious concern for individuals that are living rare with chronic illness. And it's all because, individuals have special dietary needs. And often it can be a preference, and it's totally okay if it is a preference. But for some individuals, it is absolutely a requirement or a necessity based on how they live, based on how they choose to live well. And so, it's important to communicate some of those needs to individuals. And we're going to provide some language in the upcoming scenarios that you'll see that hopefully will provide some insight for you. I will just share what it talks about on the slide regarding tips for hosting or attending. You know, it's important to help people to be accommodating and to help individuals feel connected and feel like they belong. So having conversations about bringing your own dishes, bringing your own utensils, um, and what that might look like might help create a safer space for someone that's living rare if that's your need. Other individuals try things like eating before they go to a gathering, of any kind. That might be something as well. So it's about having those conversations. And again, hopefully what we chat about tonight will be helpful. Now, what I will share is some of these scenarios. These are actually real life scenarios that I've used in a number of other presentations. So they don't always have the most positive outcome. Sometimes it's just simply you expressing your boundary or sharing your need or want, and individuals having to make an adjustment whether they want to or not. And so you'll see some of that within the content. So I just wanted to give people insight because we don't want to paint a unrealistic world of rainbows and roses when the reality is life is all about balance and we have to prepare for both sides of what things might look like. Okay. So I'll start by sharing this special diet drama scenario. So the setting is a dinner table overflowing with holiday dishes, and we have Chelsea and Kai um, engaging in this quick conversation. So Chelsea says, "Oh Lord, Kai brought their own food again. You're so picky. Just eat what everyone else eats." Kai closes their eyes briefly, grounding themselves. "I brought what works for me. I'm not being picky." "Right. You're the only one on the special snowflake diet." Another reference comes in. "What's wrong with Linda's cooking?" "Nothing's wrong with it. I just have dietary needs." "It's the holidays. Live a little." "Living a little for me means not getting sick later." "You make everything complicated." "What complicates things is people commenting on what I choose to eat." The table quiets. Chelsea folds her arms. "So nobody can joke with you anymore?" "Not about this, not about my health." "Let Kai eat what they need to eat. It's fine." Chelsea states, "Whatever, let's just eat." All right, so that's the end of that particular scenario. Any thoughts or insights, certainly from our panel, on that particular scenario? Amber.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A scenario is very real. In the last couple of years, I've tried going vegan, and often it's suggested for people with my rare disease condition because there's so many health benefits to eating cleaner, to limiting fried foods and dairy products. And I saw that I felt more energy, I lost weight, I could think clearer. But the real test, like you said, is when you have these family get-togethers. And I have to say this, I was terrified to introduce this lifestyle to certain family members and friends because growing up, ain't nobody in my hood heard about no veganism, no vegetarianism. We thought eating right meant that you ate and got full. Okay. So many times I would just quietly eat the food that was there. I suffer from bronchiectasis and sarcoidosis. It causes all this excess mucus to accumulate and induces retching. Nobody wants to be looked at like that. And so here I am in the back, spitting up and fighting for my life because I just went ahead and ate it. Um, and nowadays, being vegan is more accepted. But then again, I'm a Southern girl. I like to eat pork chops. I talked about this before, fried smoked sausage sandwiches. It's a constant battle and pressure to eat how we've always ate because it feels comfortable and it feels safe. So once again, especially in my scenario, I gotta be different. Why I gotta be the different one? So like you said, I practice at home making dishes for myself that are flavorful but are good for my body. And I got so good at it that one of my recipes was featured in a publication for people living with bronchiectasis. So whenever I have a family gathering and for those trying to navigate food restrictions this season, I communicate with hosts, like you said, and guests in advance. I try to prepare in advance and to say, no, thank you, politely. And another thing I can do is eat ahead of time or bring my own snacks and my own drinks. Not drinks. Well, sometimes drinks, but drinks. Okay. But having a game plan can help so much.
Thank you, Amber. Madison, do you have any insights on that?
Not particularly on this specific scenario, but it does correlate with the scenario. When it comes to swallowing challenges, I have a very delicate diet sometimes, and so my friends will be like, "Well, why can't you eat this?" or "Why do we have to cut it up?" And I just have to explain a lot of the effects of what could happen. And since I have laryngospasms and it can get caught, or having to explain why am I on tube feeding and I can eat by mouth, that's very difficult because they just want me to eat and eat and eat. So it's a challenge. And for me, I tend to just have to explain it and then cut it up the right way and just get it done. Because if I don't, then I end up in the hospital, and we don't want that.
Yeah. Thank you for highlighting those swallowing challenges, Madison. That's a very significant thing that happens very often in a lot of different communities, but certainly in the rare community. And it's not always something that individuals are mindful of when they're interacting with their loved ones that might be living with one of these conditions. And then sometimes the reality is you have scenarios where people are well aware of the challenges that you are living with because you've explained it over and over again, and they don't operate with the level of care and concern that you need. So we see that in this next scenario. And again, feel free to screenshot these if you need to, so that what you can do later on is if there's language in here that you want to utilize to help develop your own script or stock phrases in your own voice, you can kind of pull from these scenarios because it really does help to rehearse. This is rehearsal that we're having so that you can develop the language on how to advocate for yourself in this way. You're not being dishonorable or disrespectful. You are simply expressing your needs and wants. And it's okay to know that in a lot of cases, not most, but in a lot of cases, some people just won't like it. Okay. All right. So the next scenario is about asserting your boundaries against guilt or guilt tripping. And so this setting is a phone conversation with Taylor, who's a survivor of a number of different traumas and challenges. They are bracing themselves for having a conversation with their parents. Okay. So, Mom, Dad, I made a decision about the holidays. I won't be attending or hosting the family gathering this year. Oh, not this again, Taylor. When will you let go of these old issues and move on? We all have to get over things. Mom, my decision is not up for debate. It's what I need for my own healing. And I'm asking you to respect that. Taylor, your mother is just concerned about you. We all want to be together. I understand that, Dad, but my mental health is my priority. I need this time for myself, away from family gatherings. But you're a part of this family. You can't just isolate yourself. You need to face things and get over it. My healing process is personal and not something I can rush. I'm not asking for permission, but for your understanding. We just don't want you to regret missing out on family time. I appreciate your concern, but I'm confident in my decision. I hope you can find a way to enjoy the holidays. I'll be in touch afterwards. All right. So that's another scenario where people obviously have insight into what you're going through, what you might be experiencing on a multitude of levels, right? But they just don't express or show the care and concern that you hope for. So it makes a significant difference. So this opens the door for another great conversation for our panelists. And I'll start with Madison this time. Please share with us, how has living rare or living with a rare condition impacted your relationships and your ability to connect with individuals on a personal, just on a personal level in general?
On a personal level in general, my family, they live 90 miles away from the nearest hospital. And so for the holidays, I can't go up there. I can't go up there for my birthday. Can't go up for holidays. Unfortunately, with my condition getting worse over time and becoming more progressive, and using my wheelchair, there's just no way that I can get down there and participate in any type of occasion or gathering. The uh, the stress on my family has been severe because my sister actually doesn't get time off really for the holidays because she works for the military. And so, with her job and with two other disabled individuals, my mother and my sister, um, it's very hard to get all three of us together. So for me, I don't get to see my family. So we have to plan around, you know, getting gifts here and or relaying video messages or setting up video calls or how are we going to basically my mom says we want you to be together. We want to have let you have your best life. Your birthday needs to be special, etc.
So they're trying to you all are making a number of different arrangements and alternatives so that you can still feel included and connected, which can sometimes absolutely be sad, but you're grateful that your family, from what you've expressed to me before, right, Madison, that your family is working to do those things. But the reality
Yeah.
is your holiday connection and setup does not look, does not
No,
look the
it
same.
does. It does
Yeah.
not, and it's very sad. But at the same time, I'm very grateful for what they do for me. They've given me beautiful gifts and things, and have treated me with respect. Sometimes when I bring up the idea of coming up for Christmas,
Yeah,
and they kind of lay down like we just can't, Madison. We really cannot do it. It's 90 miles.
sure.
If you get sick, like it's not gonna be easy. And if I get sick, guys, I can immediately go into where I have a laryngeospasm and it closes up so fast that I could shut down my breathing. And
Yeah.
they do not want that happening out in the middle of the woods.
No, no, you're absolutely right. So our hearts go out to you. Individuals are sending you lots of love in the chat and with their reactions. So I hope you can see that. But yes, I'm excited to know that you're making adjustments based on where you are, and that's the reality of someone living rare. We commend your courage and your internal power to do that because some people are not in a headspace, mind, body, or spirit to navigate those spaces well. And so it's really good that you're doing your best to make the best out of a situation and communicating with your family so that you can have that.
And real quick, I just want to touch on caregiver burnout because that's a really
Sure.
big important thing.
Hmm.
Um, my sister is like the unsung hero of that uh basis because her caregiver burnout is through the roof because of all of us being disabled that she helps out. Now, living with Rare with me, she's my POA. She's the one that does all the communications for the holidays. She's the one that does all the stuff. And keep in mind, she's working during this time. She's working Black Friday. She's working Thanksgiving usually. She's working Christmas Day. She works because she's working for the military. And it's not easy for her. Um so she is kind of definitely has experienced caregiver burnout herself. And it's one of those things that I've had to take her aside when I do get time with her and just been like, are you okay? Are you all right? And we've had to have those adult conversations and really let her express herself. How does she feel to me?
Yes, I love that, Madison. Thank you for highlighting that because at RDDC, we love to highlight a good caregiver because caregivers really are, as you stated, those unsung heroes that are doing so much seen and unseen, navigating and putting out fires and helping coordinate and support in so many different ways. So we definitely lift up your sister and other caregivers that may have joined us today to celebrate the rare warrior in their life. So I want to highlight really quickly some of those financial and social pressures. Everybody knows about this as it relates to the holidays. It's very important that maybe due to financial challenges that and social pressures for whatever reason, it's important to examine what holiday means to you and to reframe what giving might mean to you. Okay. So sometimes acts of service or handmade gifts, gratitude notes, like notes of gratitude, might serve as an affordable and more meaningful alternative to another type of gift. But individuals have definitely expressed concerns with connecting with those societal norms associated with giving gifts. Whether if they do celebrate, what does that look like? Especially considering the financial challenges that rare patients often live with or experience. We talked about that underinsured and uninsured population. And even if you're fortunate enough to have coverage, you may absolutely have barriers or challenges associated with any extra expenditures like a gift for the holidays, or how the expectation is from a societal perspective is I'm going to give a gift to everyone I'm connected to, especially in an immediate family type of way. So all of those things are certainly things to consider, reflect on, and think about as you're navigating and connecting with the rare warrior or caregiver in your life. Super, super something easier to consider. Um, all right, so we have another quick scenario here, and then we'll get some phenomenal insight from our rare warriors and panelists about this as well. So this is called Respect My Reason. So this is a setting of a family room, buzzing with Christmas decor, etc. All right, Aunt Marcia. So, Riley, come open your gift. I picked this out just for you. Aunt Marcia, thanks for thinking of me, but as I've shared before, I don't celebrate holidays. I can't accept a Christmas gift. Lord, here we go again, Riley. It's just a gift. It won't kill you. I know, but it's part of my faith practice. I really do need you to respect that. Well, I think it's rude. Everybody else is participating. You're making it weird on purpose. I'm not trying to make anything weird. I'm honoring my beliefs. Well, your beliefs hurt my feelings. She clutches her gift dramatically. Your feelings matter, but so do my boundaries. I'm not rejecting you. I'm just not participating in the holiday exchange. So what? You're too holy for us now? Is that it? Marsha, Riley said this before. They're consistent. It's not personal. Can't even give a person a gift anymore. Thank you. That could have gone even worse. You handled it. People just don't like change. All right. And it's look seen for that one. That one was very interesting as we see the reality is it wasn't the worst outcome, but it certainly wasn't the best. And the reality is people do have challenges adjusting with change or things just being different. So it's different than what I do, than what my family traditions are, how we operate. We might struggle with it from time to time. And so I love to get insight from advocate Amber. Yes, yes, yes. To highlight, as she has already shared some great insight on her how her faith impacts her interactions with loved ones during the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. The scenario is very real. I talked about me and my dad's conversations earlier, and these conversations are hard, but they're necessary. For a long time, I would avoid the conversation because I didn't want to do anything to hurt anyone's feelings or step on anyone's toes. And meanwhile, everybody else is living their best lives. They're living in their truth. And when I would compromise, I would feel sad later on. I was so afraid of being alone. I spoke to my therapist about how I was struggling with this. It was a great move, okay? Because therapists provide a safe space to practice by teaching communication skills, kind of like this outline you have here. We did things like role playing, we explored the potential stumbling blocks, and we explored worst case scenarios. One of the best things I learned is the power of using I statements. If you look at this example, I statements are all up in there. Okay. Using phrases like I feel, I'm feeling. It takes the blame off the other person and helps you express yourself by owning your emotions. And because of my spirituality, I like to pray about it before having a talk, honestly. And I pray that the talk is understood by both parties and that you can leave the conversation peacefully and with your integrity intact. Now, sometimes it don't go the way you expect it to, again, like the scenario. And I know that that's okay too. Like you said earlier, Jocelyn, and maybe the outcome is that you both go your separate ways. But no, that's okay to agree to disagree. And often, though, it strengthens relationships when you have these conversations and it empowers you because you get it off your chest and it's not just festering inside of you.
Thank you, Amber. That was a great way to highlight exactly what an individual in this scenario will be going through. We really appreciate your courage to share your personal lived experience because this is happening in more ways than one, especially as spirituality has certainly evolved for so many people, for so many different generations in this time and space. Things look a lot differently than they did before. And so people are having challenges navigating these conversations with elders in their family and their life in their community. And so this is a great realistic scenario that's honestly the account of a real advocate that I work with that um, really has challenges dealing with their family, will loves to go and support certain gatherings, but it's a struggle every year to have that conversation over and over and over. So the reality is the outcome is thank goodness for the cousin Theos of it all, right? He came in and was kind of like that bystander support and say, let me please help them out because here we go again with this scenario. Because cousin Theo knows how Aunt Marcia operates. Okay. Cousin Theo knows Aunt Marcia's spirit. And so Cousin Theo is saying, okay, let me help Riley out and kind of serve and give some intervention here and provide support by letting them know, hey, they're not alone. I got your back. We're just glad that you're here. And that's what the important part is. So that's one key thing that we want to highlight. All right. Here's another scenario that we'll go through really quickly, and you all can just provide general feedback on this because this is something that may or may not be applicable to everyone. But even if it hasn't happened to us, we have very likely seen people do it to others. And so this one is about policing my plate. A lot of times when you have individuals that eat differently, have special dietary needs, unique dietary wants, or even individuals that are survivors of different types of trauma and maybe living with an eating disorder, right? It's important to be mindful of all of these possibilities without asking a lot of invasive questions of that individual. It's giving hashtag mind your business a little bit type of scenario in reality. But we all know that one family member, relative, friend, or someone we're connected to that might be policing someone else's plate. All right. So the setting with this is a crowded buffet line, lots of food because it's a holiday setting or gathering at some type of special event. And so we have Reese and Alana. So Alana says, Reese, as Reese prepares to get a second helping, back again. Whew, you're really going in. Didn't you say you were on a diet? Alana, my plate is not your business. Alana laughs and says, I'm just teasing, but that's a lot of food. And comments like that are not necessary, says Reese. You're so sensitive. I'm just trying to help. Help is asking if I need anything, not judging what I'm eating. Whatever, I was just saying. Someone else steps in. Alana, chill. This is a holiday buffet, not a nutrition class. Fine. Eat what you want. Y'all are dramatic. Thank you. I hate being watched like that. You handled it. Grab your food. I'll save us seats. So again, you have another bystander kind of helping the person out, kind of helping intervene some of the chaos that was ensuing as those comments were being made. Passive aggressive comments being made about what someone else is eating, how much they're eating, etc. Sometimes we know when people are policing your plate, depending on who the individual is, sometimes they're commenting on persons eating too much, too little. It just depends, right? So we could see this go either way. But I would love to get some insight from our experts tonight. Amber and Madison, what are your thoughts on what you may have seen regarding a similar scenario? Any comments regarding this just in general?
I'm going to defer to Madison
Okay.
for this. I haven't been through that in a long time. And let me tell you, okay. My Aunt Shirley, God bless her. God bless my Aunt Shirley. She passed away now, but my Aunt Shirley used to make the red velvet cake every year. Okay. Best red velvet cake you ever had in your life. Okay. She's made all kind of cakes. That thing will be policing that red velvet cake like no tomorrow. And our family will bring our desserts, the peach cobbler. My mom will make the cherry jubilee. These are the highlights. Oh, Shirley will be over there eyeing folks like a hawk, talking about something, just get a little sliver. So anyway, that's all I remember about that. Go ahead, Madison.
I will say, for me, I guess it's not necessarily policing my plate, but I've had, I have mobility issues. And so for me, I, I have the privilege of when I do get together for gatherings of people offering to get me a plate. And that is always very kind and very generous. Um, and usually, asking, then they're asking, oh, would you like more or whatever? And it's like, it's very kind, but at the same time, when it comes to this scenario, if I ask for more, sometimes they're a little chuckle here and there, and it's like, you're very hungry. And I'm like, yes, I am. But at the same time, it's a um because I need help with the utensils because I can't use regular utensils myself. I have to use a heavier gripper, uh, uh rated utensils. It can be a little like unsettling sometimes if people just think that you're piling on food so you can pile on the pounds because I'm not. I'm just trying to have food and live my life.
No,
When
that makes
what food I can eat, what food I can eat at least. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You're just living your life. You're navigating your situation, and it's challenging if people are kind of like watching, not the support team, of course, but the others. If people are kind of watching and surveying all that you have going on, it can absolutely be a lot. Thank you both for sharing that insight. Because again, like we said, and I love seeing some of the great insights that you all are providing in the comments. Um, Daisha says we all have these type of family people in our family. We absolutely do. Everyone does. It's that one aunt, uncle, friend, someone that we know that will make comments like this. All right. All right. So we have a few more scenarios that we want to go through, but I definitely want to highlight this scenario before we get to our next questions. And so this one is a different perspective, but still something that impacts populations that we serve here at RDDC. And it's certainly something that we wanted to address because this is a part of navigating all the holistic spectrum of health, mind, body, and spirit. And so this part is included. Okay. So you don't get to define me is the name of this scenario. All right. So the setting is a living room. Family members are chatting while a holiday movie plays softly in the background. Um, and then Jordan sits with a warm cup of tea, settling into their breath when an older relative makes a pointed remark. So, Aunt Joan, you used to be such a nice girl. I don't know what happened, but all this queer stuff isn't who God made you to be. Jordan, heart drops, shoulders tense, catches their breath. I need a moment. So the narrative will shift a little bit right here. Jordan turns slightly away, grounding themselves. They recite internally, I am safe. This moment is temporary. I do not need to absorb anyone else's discomfort. Jordan places both feet on the floor. Um, feeling the firmness of the breath of beneath them. They take a sip of tea, anchoring themselves in the warmth. Three things I can see: the lights, the steam rising from my cup, the blanket folded on the chair. Two things I can touch: the fabric of the couch, the ceramic mug. One thing I can breathe into: my own dignity. So Jordan then responds, I want to be clear. My sexuality is not a problem to fix, and it doesn't make me less. What you said was hurtful, and I won't internalize it. I'm just trying to help. I don't want you choosing the wrong path. The only wrong path is abandoning myself to make others comfortable. I'm choosing authenticity and I'm choosing peace. I won't continue this conversation if it's going to be disrespectful. Well, I can't say anything anymore. You can, as long as it's respectful. That's my boundary. All right. So that's the end of that scenario where we have an individual that identifies as queer, and an elder in the family or someone, another relative, making a comment on it. Again, in a very like passive aggressive way. Again, these are real scenarios. These are not made up. And I've just changed the names for integrity and confidentiality's sake. But definitely would love to see if whether via chat or if any of our other rare warriors that want to make a comment on this has any insight on this particular scenario. But this is a very real thing that people deal with every day. And a lot of times when you get those larger family gatherings, whether during the holidays or something else, individuals like to use that as a platform to make comments. Regarding, offering their opinion on your lifestyle, offering their opinion on recent events that they've heard about. So just want to see if anyone has any comments regarding this. I will definitely check the chat really quickly just to see if any of our friends have something to say. whether about this scenario or some of the others, I love what Misty shared. It says this is really hard, especially living in the South. People use food to heal everything, so it gets hard to say no. And that's so true. That's what we were talking about earlier. Everyone just wanting to be connected, wanting to belong. And so you want to say things that kind of ring true to the easier side of things, right? You want to avoid conflict if you can. And sometimes giving in is what a lot of us do. So don't beat yourself up for that. Give yourself grace. But the reality is kind of how Amber shared with us earlier. If I end up eating something that doesn't agree with my system, then I'm struggling on the back end. So it's kind of like that phrase that says, choose your hard. Am I going to deal with difficult things up front or on the back end? Which one am I going to embrace? All right. All right. So thanks so much for all the engagement and your conversations in the chat. I want to shift a little bit as we come off of those particular scenarios, and all of this is kind of intertwined into one, right? The intersection of what it's like living rare, what it's like living with a chronic illness, what it's like being a member of a minoritized community, just navigating living with a rare condition. But please share, Madison and then Amber, what is one misunderstanding you feel people often have about individuals living with a rare condition? Because we know the reality is, as human beings, a lot of times we tend to assume things. So would love to hear your insight and then Amber's.
For me, I would say one misunderstanding people often have about living with a rare condition, even my family has this misunderstanding, I feel like, is that the disease changes for me day to day. Some conditions obviously do not, but mine changes from day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute. So there could be a time that I could go to Washington and be just fine, but they won't let me. So I'm not given that choice that, hey, do you want to come to Washington? Do you want to? Because if I had that choice, I would take it in a moment. And I feel like as a as a community of people, often that is the biggest misunderstanding I face as a person with stiff person syndrome and other autoimmune conditions is that my condition will change from day to day, whether it be really, really bad or just awesome and good. I'm about ready to go out of town right now and I'm feeling on high, I'm feeling good, I'm under treatment, and then in a couple of weeks I'll probably be bad. But you know what? That is probably the most misunderstood scenario. And I'm preparing for the worst case scenario, but at the same time, hoping for the best. And if I could do that for any other trip plus my family, that would be the most. I think that's what this program is all about: bringing awareness to not only ourselves but also our advocacy for ourselves and also the caregivers and community that we have.
Yeah. I appreciate you for sharing that. That's really, really, really powerful. Amber, any thoughts or insight in terms of what's one misunderstanding in your journey that you feel like people often have about individuals living with rare conditions or other chronic illnesses?
Yes, thank you, Jocelyn. Whenever I travel, it's so painful. I mean, it could be right down the street, and it's always so painful. I feel every bump. With every turn, my overactive nerve pain elevates. So by the time I arrive to some of these events, I'm already wiped out and tired. Doesn't mean I don't want to be there, but all I want to do is lay out and recover. But sometimes it can be confused as me having an attitude. It could be perceived that I don't want to be there. There's so many commitments I've had to cancel because of fatigue, because of all these medications I have to take on a daily basis, and it takes their toll. I feel like I let people down. Their grandnieces and nephews I've never met in my life because I wasn't able to travel to see them, and
Mhm.
their family members in the same state I never see because I hate asking for help. And whenever I want to be a part of anything, my first thought is, how am I going to get there? What kind of equipment do I have to bring? So here I come with my pillows, my ice packs, my wheelchair, my walker, my bag of meds, the whole shebang. And I remember at first when I first got sick, people used to be embarrassed to be around me and be seen like that, because when I first got sick, it people who had illnesses like that or in wheelchairs, they weren't always out and about for people to see. Um, so here I come with all my stuff, and sometimes the door isn't wide enough to accommodate. So most times there's this limited space, and it's not like you got a handicap section at your auntie house. Okay. So, I got to get help carrying all this stuff. So, a lot of times I want to stay longer, but there are lots of times where I have to leave because of pain and fatigue, and I have to force the person I rode with to leave early, and they aren't ready. Many times it's been so long since I've seen my family and friends. I spend hours just talking to people and catching up, and I want to hug them. I want to embrace them, but I can't get that close to them because of my immunosuppression. Immunosuppression. I love children, but I can't love them how I really want to because I'm afraid of getting sick, and I have to wear my mask. And most times I don't even put on makeup or anything like that because the mask is covering it anyway. And these times are meant to be cherished with friends and family. And for me, most times, it's filled with anxiety.
No, thank you so much to both of you all for the courage to share that, because those are real things that you have to deal with on a day to day. I love what Madison highlighted just in terms of people understanding the ebbs and flows. It's giving roller coaster, right? The ups and downs of sometimes living with a rare condition. It can be fine one moment and not the next. And that's how some of the conditions work. Things don't always necessarily persist for an extended period of time. A lot of conditions, as we know, studies have shown, come with flares where you're going to have periods of times that are worse than others. And so, whether it's a rare condition, chronic illness, or an autoimmune condition, it's important that, to Amber's point, we're mindful of what people might be going through behind the scenes. No individual should have to run out their entire medical chart and diagnoses to you for you to be considerate or mindful of what they might be going through. I think one of the things that, um, while I'm not living with a rare condition, I do have an autoimmune condition, Hashimoto's, and the attitude thing that Amber mentioned resonates with me, because sometimes when my joint pains are flaring very badly, people will assume I have an attitude when I'm trying to breathe my way through chronic pain and individuals don't understand it. It's the concept of the invisible disability campaign that we have often heard about, because it doesn't look the same on everyone, and people don't know what it looks like. And one day I may need wheelchair access at the airport or another event, and one day I may not. But doing things to help advocate for myself might be, let me put this in my profile at the airport just in case I am having a flare that day and I do need it. And so I definitely, absolutely understand that. Thank you so much again, Madison, for highlighting what you highlighted as well, because that whole concept of the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs make a huge, huge difference. And I love what you put in the chat about your family. Sometimes people not understanding what we're going through and what we're experiencing has nothing to do with their love for us. They can absolutely love and support us for sure, right? But just not know or have all the tools to navigate it. And so between us as the individuals that are the advocates and patients themselves, or our care team, right? It could be our providers, the nurses, the patient navigators, community health workers, whomever we connect with. We work in partnership with everyone to make sure that our family, our village, our support network has the correct information and is educated and aware so they can get deeper insight on what we need. All right. So really quickly, we're going to go to this next question. So sorry about that. And this is kind of like our last question for our last major question for our panelists as it relates to some of these scenarios that I want to highlight for sure. Please share with, and I'll start with you first, Madison, because this is appropriate to your comment in the chat. please tell us one thing that someone you're connected to that helped you feel seen and supported, because it may even seem like something small, but to the point earlier about caregivers and care partners, those unsung heroes, there's so much that they do. Just share with our audience what's one thing that has helped you feel seen and supported, in hopes that they may kind of resonate with it or may feel led to share it with their family or village.
I would say one thing that my family in particular has done is they always tend to give me the opportunity to experience my birthday in the house. They always want to have things delivered. They always want to not have to make me go out and get cake or go out and get presents or go out and get the things that they purchased. It's we're gonna deliver this to you because then the travel isn't so hard, and that makes me feel seen and supported. Um, it makes me feel seen and supported that they even bothered to do it, because maybe they can't be here or I can't be there, but at least they're making the effort to provide some way for me to connect to them. And my mom always likes to sign the cards and everything, and she can barely write right now. She's really old, and she has a hard time writing, but she does the best she can. And so I always feel very supported in that way. And my sister would send me cards for Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Halloween, whatever it is. He just likes to send a card and say I love you. And that is a treasure, and I love that. That's always something that I feel seen and supported in. And then one thing that like my friends have done is this year they have decided to take it upon themselves to have Thanksgiving with me here at my apartment. And then this year we're going to have Christmas dinner together as a friendship group. And that is very special and unique and important to me. And they said, no longer are you going to spend your holidays and birthday alone. If one of us is in town, we will be there. So that is relieving and special and unique about them. And I think that finding alternative means of a family, like we talked about, that
Chosen family.
chosen family, yes, is very um not necessarily something I would want, but something that I need, because I need that blessing of having a family like you. And I actually brought out the good dishes and everything. I brought out the good dishes. I put on nice clothes. I was like, this is the first Thanksgiving dinner I'm gonna have in this house, and I'm gonna make it look good. And I felt so happy.
No, that's so exciting. Thank you so much for sharing that, because sometimes creating those alternatives and your family members or village accommodating you can make all the difference. They're having things delivered to you in an effort to understand your condition, but still support you, still show you love. And so that's their way of doing it and making every effort to kind of lessen any burden or challenges that you might have trying to go out and about. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I love the Friendsmas that you have coming up. That sounds exciting too. So Amber, would love to hear from you. What's one thing, not even holiday related, of course, but just centered around special occasions or the just because love, I like to call it. What is something that, helps you feel seen or supported by your village?
My family and my friends have always been there since day one for me. I have always, 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 through all the troubles, I've always had support. That's one thing that I can say because everybody doesn't have that. A lot of
Yeah.
them have to live this through this stuff alone. But my family has always been there for me, and I love them so much, and I cherish them so much. My mother being my caregiver, my dad when he was alive, doing what he could, and just I just love them so much. But there has to be an outlet. you know Finding those resources like this webinar, organizations like the Rare Disease Diversity Coalition, the Black Women's Health Imperative, They can help you to navigate through all this stuff. It's powerful to hear experiences and encouragement, like in this webinar. And when I join these intimate spaces, I feel safe. It's safe to share. And I learn so much because I can relate to what's being said. And so many of us aren't able to leave the house and go in person physically, like Madison was talking about. We can't make the trip. Or because sometimes it's because of financial difficulties. Don't let any of that stop you. You know, technology has allowed us to be anywhere in the world. I'm going to say that again, anywhere in the world from the comfort of our beds. I can imagine myself now, and all you have to do is turn it on, roll over, and listen. You know, I be with stuff like this on webinars. I lay out under my heater and I be rubbing my feet together, listening to listening to the webinar. You know, it's empowering to hear different perspectives. So I would encourage that anyone listening to this log into the Rare Disease Diversity Coalition website, check out the Black Women's Health Imperative, and sign up for emails, those type of organizations. And trust me, they don't overload your inbox with a bunch of spam mail or anything like that, because these messages are so meaningful. They're educational, and you can really feel that they care about you and your well-being. So thank y'all so much for supporting me and allowing me to be a part of this.
No, thank you so much to you and Amber, to you and Madison both for being here. It's so key as we move forward in helping us understand how we can show up better for you, but also how individuals can show up for themselves, right? Because so often that might be seen as selfish or vain, but the reality is it's about living well. It's not just about being alive and surviving, but it's about thriving and living well, even with your adjustments and accommodations that have to be made. So, really quickly, want to highlight two things for each of these: how to show up for yourself and then how to show up for others. So, it's really important to honor yourself, mind, body, and spirit. So, check in with yourself often. How are your symptoms? Are you having a flare? Do you feel a flare coming on? All of those different things between activities make a difference so that you can kind of set the pace of how you want your week, month, or whatever to go as you're preparing. And to Madison's point earlier, it's going to be imperative that you communicate whatever you need to regarding your condition and your needs and wants to your village, right? To your support system. Make sure that you're doing that. Share those needs. I know that Amber said earlier, she's like so many of us, I'm going to raise my hand, don't like asking for help. We don't like asking for help. And so sometimes we struggle unnecessarily or a little bit more than we have to, because you're thinking, I don't want to be a burden to someone else. I don't want to add another thing to their task list because they have a lot of stuff going on too. But the reality is, again, that choose your hard. We got to share, whether it's needing quiet time or help with tasks or mobility support. We have to share those needs with our village so it doesn't create a bigger challenge on the back end. And again, this is about navigating health in the holidays, but this is something about just navigating family gatherings, community connections, whatever that might be. These are tips and best practices that Amber and Madison are sharing from their professional lived experience, and that you can use year round. So please adhere to those. So how do you show up for others? As both of our panelists so brilliantly mentioned, celebrate in ways that feel accessible to you, right? It's about redefining that. If it's centered around your faith or just your personal accessibility, do things in a way that fits your reality. So shorter gatherings, might be centered around, I may go to a family gathering or connection, as Amber talked about when her father was alive, and I just may not stay the entire time. I may do an hour or two here or there, just go by to show my face and to provide some semblance of support, or I may do a virtual check-in later on. Between Zoom, FaceTime, and all these other avenues, there are lots of different ways that we could do it. Make sure you're focusing on rest-friendly activities or sensory gentle environments. Okay, that's going to be important when you're talking about a lot of different rare conditions or chronic illnesses that involve a lot of times more than one body system. So you have to be mindful of that as you're navigating how to move forward. And again, despite societal expectations and things of that nature, remember to lean into your community care and not perfection. Forget that whole concept of like FOMO, the fear of missing out, oh, I gotta be on all the time. I have to be present and everywhere, or people will forget me. I have to be connected or they won't remember me. We're gonna remember you. But it's important that when we remember you, that you're well. And we want you to live and thrive in the fullness of who you are. And so that doesn't require you to be strong all the time. Take rest as needed, make adjustments, and know that like that last line says, and our friend Misty put it in the chat, no is not a complete sentence. Okay. You can't necessarily be everywhere and attend every function, and that's certainly okay too. So the last few tips that we're going to provide you before we share our QR code with some resources, these have all been mentioned tonight thanks to our great panelists. So this is just a recap and a refresher, and this will also be shared um, in the QR code document that we have for you that has some tips. It kind of shows as a self-advocacy tip sheet for the holidays and other things. Okay. So really quickly, it just talks about protecting your energy with those time-bound visits that we talked about. Declining invitations that don't align with your well-being. So that could be faith-based, physically, spiritually, whatever it is. You have the power and authority to assess what works well for you at this time. And let me give you some grace up front. What worked well for you this year may not work well for you next year. Make adjustments as needed. Totally okay. Schedule pre and post event self-care. So whether that's watching your favorite movie, taking a nice bath, reading your favorite book, doing a puzzle or activity, something that's just for you. A lot of times it's important when you're coming from a crowd or a group of people to kind of give yourself space to decompress. All right. Choose a check-in partner. So if you have an Aunt Martha, like who was in the scenario earlier, you might need to take a break and go outside at the event and just have a quick chat or conversation with a best friend, a cousin, another relative. It could be via text, it could be a quick FaceTime call, it could be through an old-fashioned phone call. Whatever works best for you. As you're planning for these activities, have a check-in partner that can, and maybe one or two that you can kind of check in with if things get challenging, so you can kind of take time to just have space to be and then return to the gathering or leave, whatever you choose works best for you. All right. So set those clear boundaries that we talked about, identifying some of that language that works best for you. I always tell people, don't feel like you have to narrate an entire movie script. Start with 2 to 3 kind of stock phrases that will become a part of your script as you're learning how to assert your boundaries. Amber brought up earlier so brilliantly, and it's on the other side, but I'll mention it now. Utilizing those I statements is going to be imperative to communicate your needs because it's totally on you and you're expressing your needs and your wants to the other individual. And that's what's going to be needed in order to be clear about where you are. All right. So you may want to use code words with an ally. I used to do this years ago. I had a cousin that knew that if I was getting too heated at a family event, because honestly, sometimes it would be toxic situations popping off. And I can't even remember the word, but it was a fruit. It might have been kumquat or something. I don't know. But we would, if I said that word, like, man, I wish I had some kumquat, like in a sentence, he knew, like, hey, cuz, let's meet in the garage. Let's go for a walk. And that was one of the ways that I would decompress. And then that way I didn't have to make this grand announcement that y'all are getting on my nerves and y'all are stressing me out. You know, that cousin knew. And so you may want to find a friend, an ally, a loved one in your network that you can use a code word with so that you can get support in that way in person. Set physical touch boundaries. Everyone's not into hugs. As someone who is also a trauma researcher and educator, I often have to tell people about it's okay if people don't want to hug or touch. You don't know what sensitivities or immunosuppressive things that people are dealing with and navigating with. They're not offended. You announcing that I'm a hugger, great for you. But it could be bad for me depending on where my immune system is. It's not personal. I often tell people you can ask for a hug or some type of other alternative, but it's important to recognize that everyone's not into that for a number of different reasons, and it's totally okay. regarding that. Decline personal questions politely, and you were given some guidance on that with the scenarios. Have an exit strategy. So that could be leaving within a couple of boundaries, or just making sure that you or whoever you go with to a gathering has an understanding of, if this starts happening, we'll need to leave or transition. For the holidays as a whole, make sure you're setting financial boundaries for yourself, and that you connect with your support network. We already talked about those using I statements, but more than anything, we want to make sure that with all of this, what you're doing is honoring your emotions without judgment. Okay. You're honoring yourself, mind, body, and spirit. Okay. So that's going to be imperative. You have to listen to yourself. Advocacy will always start with you. You cannot expect individuals to honor you if you struggle with honoring you. And so the best way to demonstrate that is by you doing it and listening to your body, listening to your spirit about what you need in the moment, and seeking resources. So we'll have some of those on the resource sheet shortly. Just make sure you're connecting with trusted organizations like RDDC, Stripes of Solidarity, Her Story in Color. It could be NORD, a number of different organizations that are out here doing phenomenal work that provide unique resources for diverse audiences. Okay. So we want to, as we're sharing the QR code and the link for the resource sheet, we want to make sure that we give our phenomenal panelists an opportunity to close out the night and just share, hey, what's one of the great things that you're going to do first during this holiday season to honor yourself? So Amber and Madison, please feel free to share, along with any other closing remarks that you'd like to offer our guest.
Exactly what we just did tonight, Jocelyn. It was so, like, it takes this big burden off my shoulders to know that I can share, how I feel about these things without feeling judged. Um, just giving a personal perspective to things. And so being a part of webinars like this is going to definitely be something I'm going to do. Those screenshots that you said, going over those things, those are the things that I'm going to do in order to navigate through everything that's going on.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it takes practice, it takes rehearsal. Nobody expects you to have this figured out overnight. So give yourself grace as you're learning this, because it takes time to be able to implement this. And the more you do it, the more confident you come at it. It doesn't mean that it gets easy. I tell people that all the time. It doesn't mean that setting your boundaries and enforcing them gets easy, but it does get easier, if that makes sense. All right. Madison, any thoughts that you have to share?
One really big thing is for me is going to be to take into account how I feel about not being able to go to Washington. And I do this every single year. I tell my family that I want to go, and they listen. And sometimes it may be scoffed at, sometimes it may be um, not heard, sometimes it may be heard. Sometimes they'll say, oh, well, maybe next year. Sometimes they'll say, oh, well, we don't know the right resources. But either way, it needs to be expressed. And I can also look at the resources that we shared tonight again and understand that, like, one day soon, hopefully, I will be able to get to Washington with my family. The other thing is I really want to say is just thank you to the RDDC, the Black Women's Health Initiative, Jennifer, Jocelyn, all of you guys for putting this together. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak tonight, and thank you.
No, thank you so much for being here. Special thanks again to each and every one of our guests that came out to offer support. We appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule. We hope that this information has been both educational and empowering for you as you prepare to navigate the rest of your holiday season. And we're super, super excited and thankful that our advocates and these rare warriors, Amber Lackey and Madison Bowe, were able to join us tonight as our expert panelists. Thank you so much for being here to you both, and we look forward to seeing you all at the next RDDC event. Make sure that you scan that QR code. I'm going to drop that link in shortly, and know that you absolutely can connect with us at Rare Disease Diversity .org at our website, and have all of those great tools and resources accessible to you there. We look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day, everyone.